On the day of the laboratory explosion, my boyfriend insisted on rushing in to save the junior. I clung to his leg, desperately pleading with him not to throw his life away, and finally convinced him. As a result, the junior became blind, fell into depression, and took her own life. Later, the man fiercely gripped my neck. If it weren't for you stopping me from going in back then, how could Choo Choo have committed suicide? I was locked in an abandoned wooden house. And the fire burned for 3 whole days, leaving not even ashes behind. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of the laboratory explosion. This time, I didn't try to keep my boyfriend. Instead, I gently encouraged him. Hurry in, the junior is waiting for you. Oh no, something happened in the lab. A scorching breath rushed towards me, hitting my face. I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing, and I suddenly opened my eyes wide. The pain of being burned alive by the raging fire seemed to be etched into my bones. I was in a daze, lowering my head, until someone beside me jolted me awake. Oh my God, the fire has ignited. Is there anyone still inside who hasn't come out? It seems to be Lee Choo Choo. She just went in to do an experiment and hasn't come out. Upon hearing that name, I immediately became alert. I looked up and saw my boyfriend, Chen Zun, rushing towards me from a distance. He ran over, looking at me standing at the door with a slightly relaxed expression on my face. However, in the next second, hearing the name from the person beside him, he staggered, his eyes widened, and his face changed dramatically. No, I have to go in and save Choo Choo. The man's anxious expression, his pale face, and his reckless demeanor were exactly the same as before. I was reborn. Reborn on the day my boyfriend Chen Zun insisted on rushing into the fire-filled laboratory to save the junior student Lee Choo Choo. A quick-witted male classmate grabbed Chen Zun and shouted to stop him. The fire is so severe, we can't let anyone in. The crowd of onlookers immediately took notice and hurriedly began to advise against it. Yeah, it's useless for you to go in now. What if you can't save anyone and end up getting yourself in trouble? The fire department will be here soon. Please don't act impulsively, young man. You should listen to the advice. Going in now is just asking for death. Right. Chen Zun rolled up his sleeves and pursed his lips, still ignoring the advice, determined to rush forward. He is a tall guy, almost 9 meters, and usually works out. At this moment, when he gets serious, the few people around him can't hold him back at all. A classmate who is usually familiar with me was extremely anxious. The moment they saw me not speaking, they immediately came over and pulled me. Hey, Hu Yi, what's wrong with you? Isn't Chen Zun your boyfriend? Why are you still so calm? You need to go and persuade him. Don't just stand here without saying anything. Hurry up and talk to him. This is a matter of life and death. I was pushed forward by a few people, and Chen Zun looked back at me. The man's deep-set eyes were pitch black. Hu Yi, this is not the time for your usual nonsense. I advise you not to stop me, no matter what you say. It won't work. I must go in and save Choo Choo. He spoke seriously, furrowing his brows as he looked at me, and added, if you try to stop me, we will break up. After 5 years of knowing each other, Chen Zun understood me very well. He was certain I would throw a fit and try to stop him. So he even used breaking up as a threat. I remained very quiet, paused for a moment, and stepped forward to look at the few people still holding on to Chen Zun. Let go. If you don't help Junior Choo out safely, I will feel very upset too. Turning my head, I looked at Chen Zun again and encouraged softly, hurry in, the little junior is waiting for you. Chen Zun was taken aback for a moment, then turned and rushed into the flames. I clapped my hands, not forgetting to cheer him on. In my past life, I cried for Chen Zun's safety, begging him not to go in, even crazily hugging his leg, my tears running dry, and finally managing to persuade him. Later, Lee Choo Choo was rescued by firefighters. And although she had no major injuries, her eyes were completely blinded because she was too close during the second explosion and couldn't escape in time. Lee Choo Choo still ended up depressed after being carefully cared for by Chen Zun for half a year. Chen Zun blamed all of this on me, believing that if I hadn't stopped him from rushing in, there might have been a chance to save Lee Choo Choo's eyes, and she wouldn't have committed suicide. So he locked me in an abandoned wooden house, wanting me to experience the feeling of being isolated and helpless in a fire. Originally, he just wanted to torment me and didn't truly want my life. But he didn't realize that the dry wood in summer is the best fuel, and once the fire started, it couldn't be controlled. Chen Zun panicked. But he didn't call for help or dial 119 because he was afraid of taking responsibility. The great fire burned for 3 days and nights, leaving not even ashes behind. This feeling is nothing short of being subjected to slow slicing. The real sound of a police siren rang in my ears, pulling me back from my memories to reality, and the feeling of surviving a disaster made my eyes well up. Fortunately, I have been given another chance. Half an hour later, the fire in the laboratory was finally extinguished, and Li Chuchu and Chen Zun were both carried out. After being examined at the hospital, Li Chuchu was very lucky, apart from some external injuries. She was not seriously harmed. However, Chen Zun's situation was not optimistic. During the second explosion, he shielded Li Chuchu and was severely injured. His right hand needs to be amputated. The surgery was completed quickly, and on the hospital bed, one sleeve of the man's shirt was completely empty. Chen Zun's parents lost control of their emotions, unable to believe as they touched his empty right arm. Chen's mother cried with swollen eyes, constantly lamenting, "My son, your hand. How could you have lost your right hand? You are about to graduate. How will you live in the future?" Chen's father, with a sullen face, slammed his fist against the wall and began to curse angrily. "You're doing fine out there. Why rush in to save someone? I think you've lost your mind." Chen Zun, lying on the hospital bed, had a calm expression, his tone indifferent, even somewhat unconcerned. "Mom and Dad, I just lost my right hand. It's not like I'm paralyzed. I believe in myself. I can live well with one hand in the future." Upon hearing this, Chen's mother cried even harder, starting to hit the bed, her face filled with frustration. "What do you know? It's not as easy as you think, my foolish son." At that moment, I was just pulled to the door of the hospital room by a classmate. "Mr. Chen glanced at me and stared intently, questioning sternly. "Aren't you my son's girlfriend? I heard you were also at the scene. Why didn't you stop him? After all these years, hasn't my son been good enough to you? Are you just going to watch him go in there? Completely ungrateful." I originally had no intention of coming to the hospital. I was dragged here by a few classmates. And as soon as I walked in, I was met with a barrage of insults. In an instant, my anger surged to the top of my head. What, is Chen Zun a dog or something? Do I have to put a leash on him to drag him along? Uncle, that's not how it is. Your son's long legs are his own. If he wants to go in, who can stop him? If you have the time for this moral coercion, you might as well read a few more pages of the inspection report. My words left Dad Chen and Mom Chen speechless, their faces turning a deep shade of anger. "That's enough. Hu Yi, show some respect to my parents." Chen Zun frowned tightly on the hospital bed, giving me a warning glance. Then said defiantly, "Mom and Dad, Hu Yi is right. I chose to go in myself. It has nothing to do with her, but I don't regret it." At that moment, Li Chuchu, dressed in a hospital gown, suddenly ran into the ward and knelt down. Chen Ma immediately jumped up, pointing at her and scolding angrily. "You are that little brat, Li Chuchu. What kind of love potion did you give my son that made him risk his life to rush in and save you? Now look at you, alive and well, but our Chen Zun has lost an arm. That hand has been playing the piano for over 20 years, and you've ruined his life with your antics." Li Chuchu, kneeling on the ground, covered her face and began to cry. "Uncle and aunt, it's all my fault. The senior did this to save me. I'm the one who let him down. To repay my senior, I am willing to take care of him forever, not going anywhere, as long as he needs me." She was in the hospital room, her face still pale from not having recovered, her eyes frighteningly red, tears streaming down. "Enough," Chen Zun shouted loudly. "Mom and Dad, stop talking about it. So what if I'm not talking about the piano anymore? It's not like I won't have a future. I believe I can still find another path and live well." After saying that, he got off the hospital bed, wanting to help Li Chuchu up. But his left hand trembled for a long time without any strength. In the end, it was still Li Chuchu who got up and threw herself into his arms. Chen Zun looked heartbroken, gently comforting her, and tightly embraced Li Chuchu, watching from the side. The two looked like a pair of star-crossed lovers, and several female classmates were so moved that they wiped the corners of their eyes. It seems that everyone has forgotten that I am still Chen Zun's official girlfriend. A few days later, I came to Chen Zun's hospital room alone again. I brought a bouquet of daisies. which used to be a habit of mine and Chen Zun's when we met. I just don't know when it started that only I still remembered it. I leisurely placed the flowers in the vase next to the hospital bed. Chen Zun glanced at me, his usual indifference and detachment evident. "You don't have to come anymore. At first, I will take care of myself." I curled my lips slightly and said, "Don't worry, this is the last time, Chen Zun. Let's break up for good." The ward fell silent for a few seconds, the man's face darkened, and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. "Is it because of my hand?" I paused, not expecting him to think the reason was this. "Do you think I brought up the breakup because I suspect you lost your right hand?" Chen Zun raised an eyebrow, his tone very harsh, mixed with disgust. "Otherwise, what else could it be for?" I laughed, too lazy to argue. "Whatever you say goes." I started dating Chen Zun in our sophomore year. He was the one who pursued me. We are both art exam candidates, and our family conditions are average. Every training fee is something our parents have to bear with great difficulty. We carry a heavy psychological burden, which makes us work harder and strive more than others. At that time, he was truly good to me, wanting to give me all the benefits, listening to all my pressures, anxieties, and sadness, and doing everything he could to make me happy. We walked side by side through the darkest period together. We weathered the breakup wave of graduation season. From only daring to hold hands secretly on weekends, to finally being able to be intimate without restraint at the same university, and then in our sophomore year, finally daring to tell our parents. I didn't expect that in just one short semester, the appearance of a junior named Li Chuchu would break our 5-year solid relationship. At first, Chen Zun really disliked Li Chuchu because I disliked her so much. I am the president of the calligraphy club, and Li Chuchu is the vice president. She got this position through connections with the former president. I originally had no objections to this matter, as such things are quite common in university. However, Li Chuchu is almost like a princess with a sense of entitlement. After taking office, she hardly managed anything and left all the responsibilities to me, and she often cried at the slightest provocation. During an event when we needed to set up the venue, we were short on hands and almost everyone had to help out. This had already been announced in the group, but the next day she showed up in a full Lolita outfit and high heels. After moving just a couple of things, she pouted and started crying, saying she was tired. I suggested she take a break, but she refused, until she clumsily broke a few props we needed. Afterwards, she even wrote a little essay saying I was too strict and didn't let her rest. I told Chen Zun about this matter at the time, and he was very angry. Later, he followed me to the club and scolded Li Chuchu. Everything changed when I returned after taking half a month off because my mother was ill. Chen Zun began to intentionally and unintentionally show favoritism towards Li Chuchu. In the past, he came to the calligraphy club to see me and help me, but now his gaze is always fixed on Li Chuchu. I asked him, and he only said, "Chuchu is actually quite good. Don't target her anymore in the future." But I have never deliberately targeted her. Because of this, I started to argue with him constantly. He always said I was overthinking, nitpicking, and not as pure and kind as Li Chuchu. At that time, I thought about breaking up, but I couldn't bear to do it. I believed he was just confused for a moment and would eventually come back to his senses. Unfortunately, I was wrong. He became increasingly indifferent towards me, and the original feelings were worn away by the daily arguments. However, Chen Zun never admitted to cheating. He always thought that I had changed, becoming sharp-tongued, bitter, and jealous, unlike the way I was when I was a teenager. But love is inherently selfish. When I used to get jealous, he would only praise me for being cute, and he has forgotten that. In the ward, Chen Zun's face was like ice, and he kept saying a few good things. I have misjudged people in these 5 years. Hu Yi, remember your choice today, and don't regret it in the future. I ignored him and turned to leave. In this lifetime, let's see who will regret it. In the time that followed, I forgot about these trivial matters and became busy with various exams and competitions, working hard to enrich my internship resume. The news about Chen Zun and Li Ruoruo has been echoing in my ears. I heard that as soon as Chen Zun was discharged from the hospital, the two officially announced they were together, and a local TV station happened to interview them about their story. In that interview video, Chen Zun's eyes were filled with deep affection as he clumsily held Li Chuchu with the only hand he had left. If I could do it all over again, I would still rush in to save Choo-Choo. One hand is insignificant compared to her. For her, sacrificing anything is worth it. This interview video quickly went viral, with tens of thousands sharing and commenting, and Chen Zun and Li Choo-Choo were hailed as the most beautiful couple. Chen Zun specializes in piano, but now that he has lost his right hand, he cannot attend many practical classes. The school received a surge of attention from their video and, as a special reward, allowed him to pass those classes without makeup work, directly adding passing credits. Chen Zun's time was thus freed up by almost half. I heard that he now posts online every day with Li Choo-Choo, showcasing their love and sharing their touching love story. My roommate talks endlessly about gossip every day, and I can only smile and let it pass. Things on the internet update and iterate rapidly, and soon the hype around Chen Zun and Li Choo-Choo faded quickly, gradually disappearing from the news. People around me have stopped discussing these matters. Every graduate is troubled by internships and what to do after graduation. The second time I saw Chen Zun was at a recruitment fair organized by the school. He had actually signed a contract for his post-graduation job long ago, as a piano teacher at a very prestigious school. In his previous life, he had a very good job there, and many people were envious to the point of turning green with jealousy. But this life is different. Chen Zun lost his right hand for Li Choo-Choo, and the other party cancelled the contract for that reason. I heard that Chen Zun was quite angry and went to reason with them, saying that he could still teach students well even with one hand missing, but it was still of no use. This is how society is. Although there are countless promotions encouraging support and acceptance of employment for people with disabilities, in reality, such companies are few and far between. As a piano teacher who has lost your right hand, you are unable to play the piano normally, even if your boss reluctantly accepts you. What about the parents? Those parents will not believe that a piano teacher without hands can help their children play a beautiful piece. This world is much more difficult for ordinary people than one might imagine, let alone for those with disabilities. Others should have thought of this earlier, but Chen Zun was too confident and too proud. Chen Zun held the last item on the resume, looking a bit nervous. I looked at the booth, which was still a music-related company. It seems he still refuses to believe it. The few people in front quickly finished, and soon it was his turn for the interview. Chen Zun handed over his resume and confidently began to introduce himself. The interviewer looked at the resume and then at the transcript underneath it. Chen Zun, right, I see that your grades in the first 3 years were quite good, all in the top 20 of your class. Why did you end up with so many courses just passing in the last year? Suddenly dropping to the bottom, Chen Zun's expression darkened a bit, and after a moment of silence, he explained, I unexpectedly lost my right hand in my last year, so I couldn't attend many practical classes, which is why I only managed to pass. The interviewer's expression immediately changed, and his gaze unconsciously shifted to Chen Zun's right sleeve, which was indeed empty. The interviewer was a middle-aged woman, who suddenly changed to a more gentle expression. You are very talented and one of the top graduates this year, but I'm sorry, you do not meet our company's criteria at this time. I'm sure there will be a position that suits you better. Originally, Chen Zun's eyes lit up at the word talented, but they dimmed again upon hearing the last sentence. He sat there with his head down, not moving, and after a few seconds, he suddenly stood up and slapped the interviewer hard. He had red eyes, raised his left hand, and shouted loudly, So what if I lose an arm? My left hand can still slap you, you hypocritical bunch. Just because you can make a few stinky bucks now, you look down on others. I tell you, I, Chen Zun, will eventually rise to prominence and trample all of you underfoot. The surrounding crowd buzzed with discussion, as onlookers gathered together, chattering loudly, with many mocking glances. The interviewer calmly called the police. And when Chen Zun was taken away by the police, he was very unconvinced. You are bullying the weak, I will sue you. Due to Chen Zun's bad attitude, the other party was unwilling to settle, and he was not only fined by the police station but also detained for a week before being released. This video of the assault was also posted online during the recruitment fair, causing a negative impact on the school, and Chen Zun received a serious reprimand from the school. Since then, Chen Zun has not appeared at any job fairs. I heard him ask my parents for tens of thousands of yuan, claiming he would start from scratch and start his own business. Li Choo-Choo shares these things on her social media account every day, with titles like The Daily Life of My Boyfriend Who Lost His Arm to Save Me Tilda. My boyfriend with a broken arm is struggling to find a job. Oh, I feel so sorry for him. Good news, my boyfriend with a broken arm is going to start his own business. At first, there were fans from that early interview who liked and left encouraging comments, but ever since the campus recruitment video, there have only been negative comments, calling them a heartless couple. After observing everything, I ultimately decided not to take a job, but to pursue further studies instead. My experience after graduating from my previous life was not pleasant, as my school was not a prestigious university, not even a 211, in fact. I had the chance to get into a 211 university during the college entrance examination, but since Chen Zun scored more than 10 points lower than me, I chose to compromise and apply to a lower-ranked school to ensure we could be at the same university. At 18, I truly believed that love could overcome all difficulties. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was, and later, my work experience was quite disheartening. Academic qualifications are a stepping stone, and as a graduate from a non-prestigious university, I had virtually no opportunities. Once again, I decided to make up for my regrets and continue my studies to improve my qualifications. The days of preparing for the exam flew by. It's said online that preparing for the exam is like washing clothes in a darkroom. You don't know if they're clean, so you just keep washing them over and over again. At first, I didn't feel much when I came across this saying, but only when I truly experienced it myself did I realize how accurate it was. Fortunately, my foundation was still there, and I was able to persevere, ultimately succeeding in getting into the school I desired. During the new year, my mom insisted on taking me to visit Chen Zun's house, since our families live in the same building. My parents were very pleased with Chen Zun as a future son-in-law, so they were quite unhappy about my sudden breakup and kept nagging me to get back together with him. You've been together for 5 years, it's not that easy to just break up. I think you're just overthinking things too much. After what happened to him, you bring up breaking up. That's really unethical. No matter what, you should go over and apologize to him this year. I was helplessly dragged there, and when I arrived, I found the Chen family was arguing. In the Chen family's living room, Chen Zun had gained a lot of weight in just 2 years. The refreshing youthful look was gone, leaving only a greasy face. Standing next to him, Li Chuchu had become thinner, her face more mature, and she had dyed her hair a bright orange red. But her expression still bore that same aggrieved look. Isn't it just 100,000 yuan? What's wrong with you supporting your own son? Who doesn't lose money when starting a business? Go ask around, who doesn't lose money? This is all very normal. Later, I will pay you back tenfold, 100-fold. Mom and Dad, do you not believe me? It's one thing if others don't believe me, but you are my parents, shouldn't you support me unconditionally? Chen Zun was smoking, shouting, and yelling in a fit of rage. I just walked in with my parents and happened to see this scene. When Mom Chen saw me, she immediately grabbed my hand and started crying out, "Oh, Xiaohu, please help us persuade Chen Zun. He has already lost hundreds of thousands. We are just an ordinary family, and we really can't afford this." Li Chuchu immediately became alert upon seeing this, and she said in a delicate voice, "Auntie, I am your future daughter-in-law. You can just talk to me if you have something to say." I lowered my head and pulled my arm out. "Auntie, we broke up a long time ago. It's not my place to say these things." Chen's mom immediately sat down on the ground and started crying, while Chen's dad had a dark expression and said to Chen Zun, "Don't talk about 100,000, we don't even have 10,000, if you still care about us. Go find a good job so that your mom and I can live a few more years." My mom was so shocked when she came in that she didn't say anything. Now, finally able to interject, she hurriedly tried to smooth things over and advised, "Oh, come on. Can't the child think of ways to earn big money and honor you? It's the new year, so let's not argue." Chen Zun, however, had a face full of unwillingness, gritting his teeth and saying, "You all look down on me just because I'm disabled. You all look down on me, since you refuse to help. I will go out on my own. One day, I will make you see me in a new light." Li Chuchu comforted from the side, "Ah Zun, you still have me. I will always support you." Chen Zun nodded, "Right. I still have you. If I can't stay here, then let's go." After saying that, Chen Zun pulled Li Chuchu away. Before leaving, Li Chuchu didn't forget to give me a provocative glance, As if to flaunt Chen Zun's unwavering devotion to her, Chen Ma was rolling on the ground, crying and cursing. It's all this little bitch's fault. If it weren't for her, our Chen Zun wouldn't have lost his hand and wouldn't have ended up like this. She looked at me and my mom again. It was better when Xiao, who was with Chen Zun. My mom shuddered, forced a smile, and quickly found an excuse to leave. After returning home, she patted her chest, relieved that I had broken up with Chen Zun. 3 years have passed in the blink of an eye. After graduating from my master's program, I successfully joined a foreign company, and within less than a year, I rose to the position of manager. I just didn't expect to run into Chen Zun at the company entrance. The man was wearing a suit that didn't fit, he had gained weight again, and his hair had thinned out a bit. He was completely unrecognizable from the way he looked a few years ago. When he saw me, he was first surprised, and then his eyes lit up. I lowered my head and understood in my heart. Over the years, I not only worked hard to complete my studies, but I also lived well. I didn't neglect fitness, travel, makeup, or fashion. My friends all say I look younger and more graceful than I did in college. Chen Zun squinted his eyes and then sneered. Finally graduated. Have you all turned into bookworms? You dress well, but in the end, you still have to come to the same company for an interview as I do. I was taken aback, only to realize that he actually regarded me as the same kind of interviewee. Seeing that I didn't respond, he became even more sarcastic. Why don't you want to admit it? Stop pretending. I can see the resume in your hand. Back then, you looked down on me for being amputated and broke up with me. And now aren't you just like me? I'm afraid you might even be worse off than I am. I frowned as I looked at the resume in my hand. It was indeed my resume, but it was meant to be borrowed by the new intern for reference. Moreover, I am one of the interviewers today. Chen Zun, however, raised his head, ignored me, and confidently strode into the company. In the interview room, it quickly became Chen Zun's turn. The man was different from the arrogant one I had seen outside the company earlier. As soon as he entered, he hunched over, bowed his back, and appeared very obsequious. He didn't even know what he had learned before, carrying a pot of tea as he entered, then handing out resumes one by one and refilling cups with tea. It was quite inconvenient for him to use only one hand, and he was in a hurry, making him look very flustered. Thank you for your hard work. Leaders, please enjoy your tea while reviewing the resumes. There's no rush. All the interviewers couldn't help but furrow their brows. Chen Zun, seemingly oblivious to the atmosphere, continued to pour tea, eventually pouring it in front of me. Hey, be careful, it's hot, boss. I looked at his hunched back and raised my hand to tap the table. Chen Zun, please sit back down. His back instantly straightened, and he jumped up, astonished, saying, Hu Yi, what are you doing here? I curled my lips and said nonchalantly, I am the interviewer. Chen Zun's expression gradually stiffened. His face turned pale. How could you possibly be the interviewer? You just graduated a year ago. How could you be qualified to sit here? As he spoke, he rushed forward and slammed the table hard, and the security quickly pulled him out. After work last night, I didn't expect Chen Zun to still be at the company entrance, standing next to a familiar figure, Li Chuchu. Li Chuchu looked at me in disbelief and rushed forward to question me. Are you really the manager of this company? I don't believe it. Show me your employee ID. Li Chuchu's loud voice attracted the attention of those around her. Chen Zun, with his face a mix of black and red, finally couldn't take it anymore and pulled the woman back. All right, you've seen enough, so hurry back. Don't shout and make a scene here. Li Chuchu, however, shook him off and started crying and going wild. I won't. Chen Zun, you useless man. You let Hu Yi become the manager while you can't even pass the interview. Aren't you slapping my face? You're just a waste, she scolded while slapping Chen Zun with her hand. And someone had already started filming with their phone. Chen Zun couldn't persuade Li Chuchu, so he just lowered his head and said nothing, his face growing increasingly ugly. While the woman continued to shout louder, a few moments later, Chen Zun suddenly exerted force and pushed the woman to the ground. Enough, are you done yet? If it weren't for saving you back then, would I have to amputate? If it weren't for this, I would have been thriving at that school long ago. Li Chuchu, in the end, you turn around and bite back. You're just a filthy bitch. It was as if he finally let out the words he had been holding back for years, his whole being momentarily dazed. Then he raised his voice and shouted, Yes, why did I rush in back then? I shouldn't have rushed in. I was originally the one in the upper position. My life has been ruined by you, you worthless person." Li Chuchu got up from the ground, her eyes red as she mocked. "Was it me who told you to rush in? You rushed in on your own. What does that have to do with me? I've already given you face by sticking with you for these years. I originally thought you could still hold your own. But now I can't even afford a bag. You're just a waste." Chen Zun was so agitated that he trembled. "Waste? Others can insult you. But you, Li Chuchu, cannot be insulted. If it weren't for you, I would have had a bright future." As he spoke, he unexpectedly pulled out a folding knife from his pocket and immediately rushed towards Li Chuchu. Li Chuchu's originally arrogant demeanor vanished the moment she saw the knife, and she turned to run, but her legs went weak from fear. Just as the knife was about to stab into the woman's abdomen, a passerby suddenly rushed over and kicked Chen Zun away. Chen Zun immediately got up to resist, holding the knife in his left hand and trying to charge again, but was easily subdued. He was pinned to the ground, his face full of despair, constantly murmuring, "If I could do it all over again, I would never rush into that laboratory. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely not rush in." I watched from the side, feeling complicated emotions. This is clearly something Chen Zun regretted for a lifetime in his past life. He once grabbed my neck and said seriously, "If I were given another chance, I would definitely not listen to you. I would go in and save Chu Chu." So in this lifetime, I let go. I didn't stop him. So why does he still regret it? After this incident, I originally thought that these two would calm down, but unexpectedly, during the new year, Chen Zun's mother stormed into my house. As soon as I opened the door, the middle-aged woman unceremoniously walked straight to my sofa and lay down, then looked me up and down. "Oh dear, now Xiao Hu has made it big. I see he's dressed head to toe in designer brands." I frowned and said, "Is there something you need, Auntie?" Aunt Chen's eyes darted, and she immediately started crying while patting her thigh. "My family Chen Zun is done for. He originally lost a hand, and last time he fell and hurt his leg. Now he is completely useless." I replied expressionlessly, "If Chen Zun is sick, he should go get treatment. What good does it do for you to come and tell me?" Upon hearing this, the woman immediately stopped crying and began to loudly accuse, "Why don't you understand anything? Girl, you have been with my family's Chen Zun for 5 years. He was completely devoted to you at the beginning. How can you repay kindness with enmity? You clearly saw him rush into the fire, yet instead of stopping him, you let him go in. Who knows what good intentions you had?" I frowned. How long has it been since this happened? Why didn't this family come to cause a scene back then? But now they suddenly show up to make a fuss. After thinking for a moment, I immediately understood that they probably saw me doing well and wanted to come over to act shamelessly and cheat me out of money. Thinking of this, I pretended not to understand and asked, "Chen Zun's hand has been like this for so many years, no matter what. It can't be restored. What do you mean by coming here now?" Aunt Chen's eyes turned, and she instantly changed to a smiling face, coming forward to grab my hand. "Xiao Hu, it's not easy for Chen Zun all these years. Just look at you. You're completely different now. Auntie just wants to ask for 500,000. Is that too much?" Sure enough, I immediately turned cold, shook off the other person's hand, and said angrily, 500,000? Are you out of your mind thinking about money? Or do you think I'm a fool with a brain problem?" The woman glared, instantly lay down on the ground, and started throwing a tantrum. "What's wrong with 500,000? Chen Zun has been with you for 5 years. Isn't 5 years of youth worth 500,000? And let me tell you, I found that video from back then, at the lab entrance. Not only did you not persuade my Chen Zun, but you also encouraged him. This is equivalent to intentional murder. You are a murderer." I was so angry that I laughed, hugging my arms. "Is your son's 5 years made of gold? And what about Chen Zun's precious youth? Is my youth worthless? If you really have the ability, take this video to the police and let them handle it. Let's see what the police say." Chen Ma was furious that I was hard to bear. Her face flushed red. All right, I know you have the ability. Even the police can't handle you. Then I'll post this video online and let everyone judge. To see how you treat your boyfriend by pushing him into the fire pit." I turned around and sat on the sofa. "Go ahead, hurry up and post it. It would be best if you could take it to your coffin later, so you can seek justice from the King of Hell." In the end, I called the police, and they forcibly took Aunt Chen away. My parents, who were out buying groceries, were extremely anxious when they heard the news. They rushed home and only felt relieved when they saw that I was fine. That video from back in the day in front of the lab really got posted online, but fortunately, the netizens have good judgment and spoke up for me. Wow, I thought this guy was his real sister. But it turns out she's just a junior. What junior? She's clearly a romantic interest. If I saw another man acting like this for a mistress, I would have gone crazy long ago. The female lead is already being quite rational. Okay, what is he pulling? Threatening to break up. Luckily, the girl didn't stop him. He deserves it. Isn't that guy in the back with the junior? He even went to the TV tower for an interview. Yes, it's this guy. In that interview, he was so sentimental, saying he willingly amputated to save this mistress. I'm dying of laughter. Isn't this just a slap in the face? What a regret. So disgusting. I heard that Chen's mom was so furious after reading these comments that she fainted. Not long after discussing it with the family, we decided to move for safety reasons. On the day of the move, I went back to grab the last bag of luggage, and when I went downstairs, I saw a disheveled Chen Zun. I was on high alert and cautiously said, "What are you doing here?" Chen Zun reeked of alcohol, his face twitching, and he didn't know how many days it had been since he last bathed or changed clothes. A foul smell emanated from his tattered clothing. I instinctively covered my mouth and nose. The other party fell silent, wiped his face, and suddenly spoke in a choked voice. "Young man, you should listen to the advice. Going in now is just asking for death." The man, Good Chi, was crying one moment and laughing the next. There was no one around at that moment, and I didn't think Chen Zun was here to catch up with me. I slowly stepped back, but suddenly saw that his shirt was stained with blood. I realized something, and my whole body tensed up in an instant. Taking advantage of his distraction, I wanted to turn and run, but Chen Zun suddenly looked at me and said, "Hu Yi, in the last life, you clearly wouldn't let me in even if I died. Why aren't you stopping me this time?" I was taken aback. "You were reborn too." Chen Zun's eyes bulged, red and frightening, as he stubbornly asked, "Why didn't you stop me? If you had stopped me, I wouldn't have ended up like this. You clearly could have saved me, yet you stood by and did nothing. It's all your fault." I coldly turned my face and snorted, "Chen Zun, isn't this the thing you've regretted for a lifetime in your past life? In this life, you successfully saved Li Chuchu. You should be happy about that." Chen Zun's rugged face twisted completely, his eyes filled with hatred. "I did nothing wrong, it's all you. You are the one who harmed me." After saying that, he pulled out a knife and charged at me. I pressed my lips together and immediately took out the electric baton from the bag beside me, turning around and striking hard at the man's left hand. The other party instantly felt pain, and the knife fell to the ground. I seized the opportunity to shock him with the electric baton, and Chen Zun collapsed to the ground, starting to convulse. The sound of the police siren finally arrived at this moment, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. After my rebirth, I have always felt insecure, so I started to strengthen my body and always carried some self-defense items with me. Coincidentally, when I moved, I found a powerful electric baton in this last bag. The police took Chen Zun away, and later discovered the body of Li Chuchu, who had been stabbed dozens of times. In the rental apartment, after investigation, it was confirmed that Chen Zun had committed murder intentionally. Chen Zun's parents tried various methods, but to no avail. A few months later, the case concluded, and Chen Zun was sentenced to death. When I received the news, I felt not only a sense of relief but also a hint of complexity. In fact, Chen Zun could live well even with one hand cut off. Life is not limited to one path. However, his ambitions were higher than the sky, and he looked down on this and that, ultimately cutting off all his own paths and ruining his life. Fortunately, everything has finally settled down.